Hi, everyone. Congratulations. How are you feeling?
Grateful.
Leo, for you, the character feels a little bit of an extension of some of the last movies you've been working on, but also a new kind of journey. I'm curious what it was about Bob that you really clicked with.
A lot of things. You know, the idea of this washed up sort of revolutionary that was fighting a just cause, but somewhere along the way became broken and, you know, I guess is trying to be the best possible father figure he can be within his capabilities, but is haunted by not only his past and what he did, but by this woman who left a sort of wake of carnage to all the characters in the movie. I mean, we're all affected by the aftermath of perfidia, but I think the heart and soul of it really is, as Paul said, was this father-daughter relationship. And that was you know, for me, a discovery as we were going along. He really didn't write a traditional hero or protagonist in any sense. And he kept on instilling in me this thought that the idea of moving forward against all adversity, against failure, is his heroism. And I think there were pivotal points in the movie where, you know, I think my expectations were maybe Bob needs to do this, maybe Bob needs to actually physically step in the way of something. And I remember we were right at that sort of junction on those windy roads, which we all know. And Paul firmly made a decision. He says, like, no, your trauma has been transferred to the next generation. She's the one that has to have the gun and actually kill somebody. And your heroism is just being there. And that's when I think the character fully clicked to me right at the end. And I realized he was right. It's the idea of loving thy neighbor, caring for the people that you care for, and trying your best against all odds.
Sarah, I'm curious. This is a really large-scaled movie, larger than certainly anyone Paul has made. Leo alluded to the Borrego Springs chase at the end. There's car crashes, car chases. There's robberies. What were the biggest challenges in trying to make a movie this big?
What were the biggest challenges? I mean, I don't know. I think to some degree, it all just scales up. I think the challenges are always the challenges. I think, and this one, what was beautiful about this production is the fact that we were moving. We were a traveling circus. We went to all of these locations. Paul spent years finding these locations with the production designer and the location manager. And I think that was at the forefront of the agenda, is that we were going to go there. We were going to sort of ingrain ourselves in these communities and let them sort of soak into the storytelling. And so with that, it was sort of building this out with our producing partner, Adam Sumner, and our AD, and Will Weisky, our EP, and figuring out how we were going to most efficiently build this thing out and make sure we were capturing it, and making sure that because it was so big and it was evolving organically, that all the pieces were going to fit together. Sort of circling back, making sure we were reviewing the dailies and understanding that it all, you know, the narrative was gonna fit. But I think it was, I don't know, that's also what you do on a small scale production to some degree. This was just longer and more of them.
Leo, for somebody like you, when you're working with people with all these varying levels of experience, do you have to shift the way that you work? How do you connect with different kinds of experienced actors?
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, Paul is a very unique director in that he loves sort of controlled chaos. There's a tremendous, you know, Sarah was just saying, there was a tremendous amount of scouting beforehand. He's thought about this project for 20 years. He's been needling over the storyline, the subject matter. But when you get on set with him, there's this malleability. I think directing in a lot of sense, and I've worked with a lot of different directors, it sometimes can feel like, especially if you're working with particular people who have their vision, a very sort of stern outlook on how you as an actor get to collaborate. And that term is used a lot, but this really felt like a traveling road show. And there were moments where we were working with non-actors, but it was like every day was kind of a play. And we were working with, you know, whether it be military people, people that worked at the jailhouses, people who owned businesses that, you know, we just sort of walked into their ecosystem. As Benicio said, you, as an actor, you tried to become, it made you a leader. You kind of became a general. You're like, look, this is where we're going to go. You do this, you do that. We're going to work together. We're all moving upstairs. There's going to be a lot of panic. Keep the energy up. So it really felt in a lot of ways that we were all this organism that was constantly moving from location to location, working with real people and real communities and real homes and real ecosystems. And it gave an excitement to it. And I think more than that, you know, Paul is, you know, acts with a lot of graciousness and kindness with his crew. And it does feel collaborative, getting to watch these dailies. So when you do all these things, you wonder if this shit worked, because when you're there on the day, it feels like a mad panic. But for me, I really remember, you know, after these dailies that we'd have, these pop-up tents in all these different locations, first time I got to saw Lockjaw's sort of crew of what was coming after my daughter, my character really clicked in. And I felt the urgency of these helicopters and these buff ice dudes that are coming to get my baby girl. And it gave me a surge of energy. And that sort of discussion amongst the entire crew, did that feel good? Was that scary enough? Did we land that scene? All of that, I don't know. We just felt like a real unit moving towards tension and drama, and the stakes just kept getting higher and higher as we progressed in making the movie.
Sean Penn tells a story about getting the script and finishing it in one sitting, which is something he says he never does. And yet the stories that you guys have told me now are about how the movie changes a lot from what you read. Leo, do you like working in that way where, you know, what starts out as a hard text then becomes something that really evolves during the making of the movie?
Yeah, well, I think obviously the core of Paul's script that he's been working on is what we shot, but you know, I think he's got an incredible bullshit detector, and us as actors throw out as many different ideas as we possibly can that could be different, you know, roads that the characters may take or the narrative may take. And when he hears one of those good ideas, he's literally willing to veer off and shoot entirely new scenes. And I remember, you know, when Benicio came on set, it was more of that, like, well, I don't think my character would do this. I will only go so far. There was a pivotal moment where we were deciding that I was going to shoot Toe Jam, and Benicio was extremely specific. Like, look, I'm the karate teacher of his daughter. I will help this man out. I respect him. I'm a fan that he's a revolutionary. I like what he stands for. But if he does this in my dojo, I can't help him out any further than that. So it brought us on this entire, I mean, Paul did have the setup of his sort of compound, but it became an entirely different thing, and he was malleable and he was able to pivot. And I think that, you know, some of those sequences of us driving in the car and what we had a completely different plan that had a certain energy and excitement to it, because I felt like the adrenaline was simply there because of the fact that we were doing something completely new and we had to make it work. And that's a testament to, you know, Paul's ability to hear a good idea and change course.
Sara, when your star and director have a new idea, can you just put us in your shoes? What is that like?
I mean, I think that goes back to sort of hopefully trying to build out a production and support that sort of mode of filmmaking. And I think that's always what Paul's looking for, is like, how do we walk into it and build it and set it up so that there is an opportunity to be spontaneous and have new ideas and pivot. And I think El Paso is actually a great example of that, where we were able to sort of come in. The commission there was so helpful and happy to have us there. So supportive, gave us everything, and sort of let us, you know, we had the run of the town, and we were sort of set up to be able to use it in various ways. And I think the community there really embraced us being there. And, you know, all of those storefronts were actually owned by the people that you also see in the film. And we were able to, you know, also start to understand what was going on there on the border. And I think also, as, you know, Benicio started to expand his storyline with Paul when he got there on the ground, I think that's also inherently why you see the reflection of real life, because I think we started to, pull it into the film a little bit. So it does feel authentic in that way. But, I think every step along the way, we were sort of trying to set up a scenario wherein we could be free and they could be free within that.
Do you see this movie as optimistic?
I do. And it's interesting, Paul sent Chase Infinity a photo of us on set. He said this was 2 years ago. I can't believe that it's been 2 years. It feels so vital, and it feels like, a rare moment in time where you're a part of a piece of cinematic art that is a reflection of what our country and the world is going through. That rarely happens. And I think that at the very core of it, through these characters, you find the heart of who they are, and they can't conquer the tyranny. They can't fight these oppressive forces. But what are they doing? And that's really in the heart of Benicio's character as just somebody he was just doing the right thing in his community and taking care of his own. And with me, obviously, with Willa, but we're taking care of those that we love, and we're trying our best. So there is some profound messages in there. And like I said before, be good to the people around you, be good to the neighbors, and do what you can in this world to be a better person. And I think those messages sing through this film.
And I think what's been really incredible in this film coming out, I think, is, yes, there is a sort of devastating likeness to the world that is happening right now. And I think people are sort of taken by that. And I think that's been shocking, I think. But, the sort of outreach that's come to me throughout this film, which has been more than any other film I've ever made, is really, I think people are moved by it because it is about hope. Like, I think it does leave, or I think that I hope it does, but I do think that's kind of been the resounding sentiment, is that the takeaway is that there is hope, and that there is the next generation. And I hope it's a little bit of a rallying cry for that generation to continue to fight. It is one battle after another. It won't end. And sort of to continue to fight for rights and justice, and however that shows up, whether it's, participating in your community, showing up for the ones that you love, protecting the ones that you love. Anyway, I think, yes, I think it's optimistic. I hope it's optimistic.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sara Murphy.